1 in 3 people will develop a neurological disorder at some point in their life, making neurological disorders the leading cause of disability and the second leading cause of death in the world. According to the World Health Organization, around 50 million people worldwide have epilepsy, making it one of the most common neurological diseases globally. Nearly 80% of people with epilepsy live in low and middle income countries.
Epilepsy is a disorder of the brain that is characterized by repeated seizures. To that, a seizure is usually defined as a sudden change or alteration in the behavior of the brain. It's some kind of a temporal change, and that is to do with the electrical functioning of the brain.
Epilepsy is characterized by recurrent seizures, which are brief episodes of involuntary movement that may involve a part of the body or the entire body, and are sometimes accompanied by loss of consciousness and control of bowel or bladder function. Excessive electrical discharges in a group of brain cells can result in a seizure. Seizures can vary from the briefest lapses of attention or muscle jerks to severe and prolonged convulsions. They can also vary in frequency from less than 1 per year to several per day.
And it usually depends on what kind of condition is causing that epilepsy in that person. People can have 1 to many seizures. Duration of seizures may be different. It could last maybe a few seconds, or it could last up to maybe 5 minutes or more.
Characteristics of seizures vary and depend on where in the brain the disturbance first starts and how far it spreads.
Usually these seizures can be classified in 2 types. We have 2 main classes. They are generalized seizures. These usually typically affect both parts of the brain, and there are also partial seizures or focal seizures which are located only in one particular part of the brain.
Loss of awareness or consciousness and disturbances of movement, vision, hearing and taste, mood, or other cognitive functions are all symptoms of an epileptic seizure.
Some people may just present with just staring in an empty space. You might see that somebody is not doing anything, not responding, but just looking into space.
These seizures can lead to physical harm, such as fractures and bruising from injuries due to falling. They can also cause psychological conditions, which include anxiety and depression. Bright is a 2021 International Golden Light Award winner. The International Bureau for Epilepsy Golden Light Awards are an opportunity to recognize and reward young people affected by epilepsy, either because they have epilepsy or have made a significant positive impact on the lives of others who have the condition. He discovered this condition in a rather unorthodox manner.
I was in school when this happened at the Copperbelt University, when I started experiencing seizures that I didn't understand and all of that, and Bright being curious Bright, I decided to do a bit of study around it, what was going on with me. The doctors didn't really give me much information, which led me to doing a self-study, even further, including a video recording of myself having a seizure, and then reading more about what it meant if your hand is shaking that way, if you fall down on the bed and pass out and all of that. And I later discovered what was going on, and after consulting with the doctor, they did affirm that I did actually have epilepsy.
Bright comes from a family of 7 that has no history of epilepsy at all, and so it came as a surprise to them when he informed them of his condition.
It wasn't exactly the easiest of news to receive for a family. Obviously, something that doesn't happen in the family, no one has had it, and then all of a sudden your child has it. Of course, they were in a bit of a panic, all of them, mother, father, sisters, and brother. All of them were in a bit of a panic, and so they were trying to find whatever solution that comes forth, and trying to use it to say, let's see if it can be used. And one of the most predominant solutions offered was a so-called exorcism by the so-called the pastors. I would call them that for respect, pastors, and they were claiming I was demon possessed, and many stories arose. This one did this one did that.
And also people just generally, they have to be educated that these are not demons, because some people will take it spiritual and they'll start talking about, oh, you have epilepsy, so you have demons, and people can be discriminated and they can be marginalized and all those things that happen, stigma. So that is very important, that people should be educated that these conditions are common and they happen. And the most important thing is when someone has a seizure, they're taking their medication, they see a doctor, they make sure that they check their blood levels. And that's what we do at EDOC. We make sure that people can have a family physician who can be following them, because the problem that is there, especially in Zambia, people don't have family physicians. So they can have a seizure tomorrow, they go and see this doctor, start them on different medication, go and see the other doctor the other time and put some different medication. But if you have one doctor that is following you, then they know who you are, they know how the seizure started, and they know how they're managing your condition. So we want to make sure that people are followed by their doctors and they check their blood levels, because maybe some medications need to be monitored.
Because of the low knowledge levels around this condition, issues of stigmatization are on the increase.
Convincing the people, especially the management, that I actually indeed had epilepsy was a bit of a tough one, because my academics were suffering in a way that I was missing classes, certain classes I couldn't attend because I had to be at the hospital. And when I tell the lecturers that I was missing them because I had to be at the hospital, they couldn't believe me. And so my graduation at CBU was delayed for a year because the lecturers couldn't believe what I was going through. The stigma also came with it, because I would often suffer seizures on campus, and I found out later on that I even had nicknames that people were calling me. I still don't know what those nicknames are, because the people who told me that just told me it's too shameful for them to say them to me. I remember having a seizure once during an exam, and the common thing that went around was there was a guy who fainted because the exam was too tough, just on campus alone. And you can obviously imagine what it meant, or rather what it would feel like to wake up from an from a seizure and finding yourself being exorcised. It happened on a bus once. Again, it happened that I had a seizure on a bus and everybody had run out and I was alone, and everybody staring from outside like some demon was there. And it was rather heart-shattering, to experience that. Most people would assume I'm going to the office in the morning looking all drowsy, and they're thinking this guy was out drinking. This guy was out, throwing parties, and so he thinks he can come whenever he wants to the office and leave whenever he wants to the office. And I explained to them to say I'm on new medication. It causes me to be drowsy. It's the condition that's doing this. But people couldn't buy it, and I was let go. And so I said, well, it's for a purpose.
This is so in the workplace, schools, and the general public. Stigma can impact on the quality of life for people with the disease and their families. This has led many people living with this condition to close up, thereby leading to reduced healthcare and management.
They stigmatize people based on the condition, especially epilepsy, because people don't choose when they have it. It can come and it can happen anywhere. So people have to be educated in schools. So the way we can also do it is we can talk to the government and see if they can also try to bring in some policies that will include it in the curriculum for schools so that people can be educated, because a lot of stigma is, especially in kids who are in school, they don't understand what it is and they think that it's a curse.
With the right awareness, policymakers can implement effective actions to improve medical and social services for people living with epilepsy, promote public awareness about epilepsy, and allocate resources towards epilepsy research. School children will be able to recognize when one of their schoolmates goes into a seizure and will be able to quickly seek help, while school administrators will also understand and allow for a conducive learning environment for those living with epilepsy.
So that whenever they have a child who is living with epilepsy, it's not something that child would now face a hard time living in that school. They will be there to help provide even first aid in those instances. We hope to have educated people in workplaces to create more flexible work schedules for people living with conditions like epilepsy, so that a person doesn't feel oppressed or that it doesn't have to fit to a particular system, but rather they can create a system that can fit around the person's condition, because that's not something they can change, but the system can change.
With widespread awareness, we can defeat epilepsy.